All right, let's get to the Ashes now. And after England's hopes of forcing a deciding test match were dashed by the rain in Manchester, questions have been raised in the aftermath if the format could adapt to improve the chances of getting a result. Relentless downpours at Old Trafford over the last 2 days meant that the fourth test ended in a draw, and with it ended England's chances of regaining the urn. For more on this, we're joined by the former England batter Nick Compton. Good afternoon to you, Nick. Firstly, how gutted will those England players be feeling after they were denied the chance to get a result in Manchester due to rain?
Yeah, I think they'll be very disappointed, no doubt. I think the important thing about England is they've been on the up, haven't they? Almost 600 runs at 5.5 and over at Old Trafford. So a marked improvement from the first two games. Yes, they've been unlucky with the rain. They had an opportunity to square the series. But look, I think if we look back on it, there have been passages of play where certain individuals for England have excelled, but England have probably failed to put together a real team performance for a sustained period of time until Old Trafford. So, yeah, they were getting better. I think it would have been great for the series, and it's been a brilliant series so far. I think two very evenly matched teams going into the Oval would have been brilliant, but Australia have done what they needed to do, and I suppose the good old English weather has got the best of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was the weather. I mean, it's interesting. We saw the pictures, didn't we, of Pat Cummins being told that was it. He didn't actually, punch to the sky and look really excited about that. I guess they were relieved the fact that they've won, but I'm not sure that's how he would have felt.
Yeah, I think indifferent feeling. I think a sense of relief in many ways. It's a bit like, I think, when you score runs in a losing cause. It's a nice feeling that you've performed well and you've got the team close, but you've kind of lost. They haven't lost. They've regained the Ashes, but they didn't play to their potential. They were thoroughly outplayed at Old Trafford. So hard to sort of punch the air when you've sort of been outplayed in that particular match. But I think there'll be time to reflect over the coming days before the final test match. And let me be frank, I think there's a lot on this final test. Yes, they've retained the Ashes, but they'll want to go home having won it properly, and England equally will want to win at the Oval to make sure that it's a 2-2 series. And I think that might be a fair reflection. If you look at the way that they've played at Old Trafford, England will feel that they've really got the ascendancy, that they've got the momentum. And Australia are really clawing on, they're holding on, and they held on long enough for weather to intervene.
Should we even be talking about this? Should me and you even be discussing this? Does Test cricket have to evolve? Just earlier start times, later finishes, or this reserve day that people are talking about? What do you think?
Well, look, it's an entertainment business. I think the way that England are playing, it's about, encouraging, people to come and watch cricket. And Ben Stokes and McCullum have done an outstanding job in the last 12 months to, garner the attention of the public and play this aggressive form, which has made Test cricket exciting again. And people, are paying a lot of money to come to games and they want to watch cricket. So I guess if, as Joe Root says, if, it gets dark at 10 p.m. in the UK, then why can't we carry on if the light is good? And I see some sense to that. There's been a lot of talk about pink ball test matches. We've seen a few of those to try and make it more exciting, to play at night, and the lights are there to have effect. So in many ways there is a point to that. Look, there's rules and regulations, and currently they've got to play within those for now. But it is something that potentially will need to be looked at.
Do you think that this sort of thing puts the casual fan off watching Test cricket? I have to say, I have had to explain the rules a little bit to some of my family members, and I was sort of saying, yeah, and they said, so the weather can stop play, and that is it, and then this will go to literally you're kind of explaining the fact that the draw's not good enough. And I felt it was a little bit of a lost cause to some of my family members. I don't know whether they're a fair reflection of the casual fan, but is this what we're doing here? We're sort of killing off the Test and the beauty of a Test game.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who say, what, you play for 5 days and no one wins? That sounds absurd. So, well, look, I think in many ways that's why T20 exists and why the game has gone further afield into more sort of commercial areas. But I think the true cricket lovers, those who love Test cricket, who have grown up with it, like myself, I still think it's the greatest game. And I think the Ashes series on whole has been incredible. I mean, I think the excitement, the ebb and flow, the way it's gone from even series to test match, and has been brilliant. So look, on the whole, it's a disappointing way for the series to come to an end in many ways. But I think we've had so much fantastic entertainment. I think those who have got into it have been talking about this series as one of the greatest Ashes series we've had even since 2005. And I think it perhaps could have lived up to that had England gone on and won this test. And we had an absolute thriller at the Oval. Wouldn't that have been great?
It would have been, and it does seem, an unfair ending to it all. I guess that's perhaps with our England hat-ons, but I genuinely believe that Australia didn't want it to end like this as well, which I think you've alluded to before. Look, in terms of where the series was won and lost, can you pinpoint it? Because I don't think Ben Stokes has got any regrets about how he's played anything thus far. Where do you see it was lost and won?
No, regrets, no, because I think Ben's been true to his word, as has Brendan McCullum, in terms of the style and the nature in which they've played their cricket, and I think they've been fantastic with that. I think there's been a lot of outstanding individual performances. I think, as I said at the start of the show, I think there's been passages of play where some of the individuals have really excelled, and that man on your screen, Ben, has been brilliant. I mean, his knock at Lords was outstanding, but we haven't managed to do it for a sustained period of time. And I think there's two particular areas. I would say at Edgbaston in that second innings, I think we had a really good chance to put our foot on the opposition's throat. We had an opportunity to get a score and get to 330, 340, and there was a sort of a bit of madness there in that second innings. And I would say the same at Lords. We had a very good start, and then a mad hour where we started, playing these shots from all over the place and lost a succession of wickets and brought Australia straight back into the game. So England have had their chances. I don't think they're blaming the rain. I think England have handled the way that this fourth Test match has finished. But I think they've had their opportunities, and I think they've got better and better, and they've played more intelligent cricket, as we've seen at Old Trafford, of course, at Headingley as well. So there have been disappointing moments. Australia were 2-0 up. I think you have to give them some credit. They played consistent cricket, particularly in those first two Test matches. And even at Edgbaston, 54 for 8. Sorry, needing 54, 8 down. England could have won that too. So England won't. I wouldn't say unlucky. I'd say they've had their opportunities. And I think when you go 2-0 down, you make it very difficult for yourself.
How pleased were you with Johnny Bairstow's performance at Old Trafford, given what the scrutiny that he was coming under going into Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting reading the comments and what have you. And I think, look, Johnny put his best foot forward. He announced himself fit. And I think once you do that, there's no point in talking about, how well he's done to get fit. We know that. He's had a serious injury, which is why I think there was a question mark over, does he take the gloves and does he get back in the team straight away? Of course, he's an outstanding player, an outstanding cricketer, and I think we're a better team with a fit Johnny Bairstow. And he played brilliantly. I mean, that's Johnny at his best. I think that's why the sort of Bazball is centered around his play. Before his injury, the way he played against New Zealand, the match-winning innings, his box office. But his keeping hasn't been at his best, I think, by his own admission, and there have been question marks over the amount of missed opportunities that England have had. There have been a lot of missed opportunities, and had they been taken, you could argue that the series might be in a different position right now. So look, he's done very well. I think to get fit and show the level of fitness that he has shown, I think has been fantastic from his own personal perspective. But he's been short of form, I think, with the gloves, that's for sure.
In terms of the Oval, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. Who has the momentum? Do you feel it might be England going into the Oval?
Without doubt, England have got the momentum, and I think they'll be a little bit wounded from what happened at Old Trafford. So a bit of fire in the belly, that's what we want to see, and that's what we've seen in the last two Test matches. I guess the big question is, can Mark Wood, for example, who's been the real X factor for England the last two Test matches, can he, sustain that level of pace and aggression? Are they going to make any changes? Will Ollie Robinson come back in for, say, James Anderson, or will they let Anderson play the last Test match? There's a couple of question marks there. But I think England definitely on the up. I think at the moment Australia are really holding on, and they're going to have to really dig deep, because the advance of Wood and Wokes has been absolutely brilliant for England, and I hope that they can keep going and win that Test match.
You mentioned him there, Jimmy Anderson. Obviously he has struggled in this series, only just the 4 wickets. Do you play him on Thursday?
Personally, I wouldn't know. Jimmy's been outstanding. He's given his best as he always done. He's been a little bit unlucky in places. The wickets perhaps haven't had the pace, the nip, and bounce that he needs. But I think going into the Oval, which is a very good wicket, I think they might need to bring back Robinson, who has been England's outstanding bowler, I would say, for the last 12 to 16 months, 2 years. And they've also got Josh Tongue, who did excellently in his 2 Test matches, has a bit more pace and bounce. So the Oval is a place that does have pace and bounce. You're putting a lot in, the form of Mark Wood, of course, who's been great for 2 Test matches. Can he sustain that for a 3rd Test match, or do you bring in a Tongue, to try and support him a little bit more, to get the speeds up, above 80? So I would go that route. I think it'd be very unlucky for Jimmy Anderson. I think he's obviously been a part of the squad, and I think also conditions will prevail. He's in the squad. I think you can only really make that decision properly when you see the conditions at the Oval.
Yeah, I was just going to say, finally, do you think Stokes has got sentiment in his locker? Because you can't ever write Jimmy off, but this potentially could be his last Ashes in England, couldn't it?
Never write Jimmy off. That's the biggest lesson I think everyone's learned. I mean, he's stubborn, and he's England's greatest bowler, and I think he's shown the ability to come back time and time again. So this isn't, I think he'll want to put his best foot forward. I think he'll do everything he can to play in that final Test match, and I think if the conditions are right, then he might play. It'll be a toss-up between him and say Ollie Robinson and Josh Tongue, and I think a lot will depend on the conditions. But never write Jimmy off. He's somebody who'll keep fighting to the end, and what a greght bowler he's been and servant to England. He deserves to finish on the front foot in many ways, and it'd be nice if he did play and help England with a win.
Yes, fingers crossed, and fingers crossed the rain stays away. Good to talk to you as always. Thanks, Nick.
Brilliant, thank you.
Just a reminder, the 5th and final test of this remarkable Ashes series. The Oval gets underway on Thursday for you, 10 a.m, Sky Sports Cricket and Sky Sports main event.